In the poem The Bells, Edgar Allan Poe uses the bells as an extended metaphor for the stages of life.
Other literary elements that are prominent throughout the poem are the mood and tone. Both of these elements are related in all stanzas of the poem. In the first stanza, the mood is extremely merry. The joyous mood is displayed when the author uses words like merriment, melody, delight, and musically wells. These words portray a feeling of innocence that exists in childhood because of the positive connotation they have. In the second stanza, the mood is content. Words like mellow, harmony, and balmy enhance the tranquil yet happy mood in the stage of life. The tone conveys happiness, but it is a much subtle happiness than what was expressed in the first stanza. In the third stanza, the mood suddenly changes to frightened. Key words like scream, terror, despair, and danger show the urgent tone the author has, since the words symbolize fear. Finally, in the fourth and final stanza, the mood is grave, as seen through the words melancholy, alone, sobbing, groaning, and moaning. These words create a depressing mood that reflects on the harsh tone. The mood and the tone change immensely throughout the poem and help reflect on the extended metaphor for the stages of life. Just like the mood changes from happy at the beginning to grave at the end, life begins as a happy journey but ultimately ends in death.
Imagery is frequent throughout the poem, and it helps to contribute to the mood and the message. In the first stanza, the lines, "While the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle, the crystal and delight," have a positive connotation and contribute to the overall happy mood present in that stanza. The mood is also pleasant in the second stanza, so the imagery that is used also has a positive connotation. An example of this is seen in the phrase "molten golden tones," which adds warmth and contributes to the joyful mood. As the mood changes, so does Poe's word choice. In the fourth stanza, the bells are said to have voices, and Poe writes, "For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan." Rust gives an image of something old and tired, which further describes the end of life and subsequent funeral that is written about in the fourth stanza. It also gives the poem a tired and weary feeling, which contributes to the mood in that stanza. Further along in the poem is a metaphor, "On the human heart of stone." This contributes to the dark, grave theme that was previously established, but it also helps to enhance the overall message, because as life goes on, it appears harsher and colder, which hardens the person's heart.
The first stanza is the part of the extended metaphor that is representative of childhood. In order to portray the merry feelings that coincide with childhood, Poe uses mainly romantic elements. Some common romantic elements include the beauty found in nature, the freedom of imagination, and the supernatural. In the line, "All the heavens seem to twinkle," heavens is a supernatural reference that is mentioned in a joyous manner. The focus on the beauty of the twinkling heavens is used in order to emphasize beauty in childhood. Romanticists believed that emotions directly correlate to aesthetics and beauty. This romantic idea is displayed through emotion words, such as merriment and delight, because they relate directly to the world of merriment that is being described in the first stanza. The second stanza is the part of the extended metaphor that is representative of marriage. As described in the poem, this stage in life radiates a happy, yet calm mood through the use of romantic elements. In the line that reads, "To the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon," the turtle dove is a reference of nature. The turtle dove is symbolic of the peace that comes with marriage. The peaceful mood that emanates from the turtle dove brings out the beauty that romanticists see in nature. In the line, "How they ring out their delight," the happiness attached to marriage is emphasized through the personification of the bells. Word choices throughout the stanza, such as happiness and delight, are emotion words that correlate to the beauty being represented. The third stanza is the part of the extended metaphor that is representative of tragedy. This is the point in the poem which the main writing style shifts from romantic to Gothic in order to create a major change in mood as the stages of life continue to progress. Instead of focusing on the beauty in nature, emotions, and the supernatural, Gothic poetry is pervaded by a sense of mystery, fear, and oppressiveness. This shift from romantic to Gothic creates antithesis within the poem, while further adding to the distinction between the different stages of life represented in the extended metaphor. In the line, "In the startled ear of night," nature is being used to symbolize the oncoming fear seeping into the life of the speaker. Poe emphasizes the elements of fear attached to the night instead of the beauty. This shift in perspective makes it strikingly different from the romantic elements used throughout the previous stanzas. The fourth stanza is the part of the extended metaphor that is representative of death. It is completely devoid of romantic elements, which adds to the dark, grave, and depressing mood that radiates from the final stanza. There is a lack of references to nature in the final stanza. Nature is said to directly correlate to beauty in romantic literature. Since there are no references or comparisons to nature, this makes the stanza Gothic and focuses entirely on the darkness of the stage in life instead of any beauty that may exist. Another key idea in Gothic literature is that there is a victim that cannot overcome the dark powers of the prosecutor. Near the end of the final stanza, the lines read, "To the throbbing of the bells, and to the sobbing of the bells." These lines show that the speaker has accepted that death's overpowering grip cannot be stopped, and that he must give in to the dark power that the bells give off. Overall, the addition of romantic and Gothic elements gives strength to the extended metaphor by creating greater antithesis between the four stages of life.
The onomatopoeia present in each of the stanzas helps to portray the mood and stage of life that each stanza represents. In the first stanza, there are 3 lines which contain onomatopoeia. In the line that reads, "How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle," Poe repeats the word tinkle to emphasize the upbeat sounds of the silver bells which are mentioned earlier in the stanza. Another onomatopoeia found in stanza 1 can be seen in the line, "All the heavens seem to twinkle." Rather than expressing the sound of the bells, the speaker mentioned the sound that the heavens make. The final onomatopoeia seen in stanza 1 is in the line that reads, "From the jingling and the tinkling of the bells." Poe again uses the word tinkle to describe the sound that the silver bells are making. Not only do these sounds reflect on the happy and upbeat mood of the first stanza, but they also support the stage of life that the first stanza represents, which is childhood. In the second stanza, there are 2 lines that contain onomatopoeia. In the lines that read, "To the swinging and the ringing of the bells, bells, bells," ringing is the onomatopoeia used to describe the sounds of the aforementioned golden bells. The second line of stanza 2 that contains onomatopoeia reads, "To the rhyming and the chiming of the bells." Both instances of onomatopoeia in the second stanza refer to the sounds that the bells are making. This repetition of similar onomatopoeia helped to enhance the increasing importance of the bells. Though ringing and chiming are less joyous than the sounds seen in stanza 1, these sounds can be considered happy. By aiding the overall mood of the second stanza, the sounds help to support the stage of life that the stanza represents, which is marriage. Onomatopoeia is heavily present in the third stanza. Poe uses the sounds clang, clash, roar, twanging, clanging, jangling, wrangling, clamor, and clangor to describe the noises of the brazen bells, mentioned in stanza 3. All of these sounds are more distraught than those of stanza 1 and 2, which support the urgent mood of the stanza. Also, these sounds help to represent the stage of life that this stanza represents, which is tragedy. In the fourth stanza, there are only 2 instances of onomatopoeia seen in the lines that read, "From the rest within their throats is a groan," and "To the moaning and the groaning of the bells." In both cases, groan is the sound that is heard. Both the sound itself and the fact that there are only few sounds in the fourth stanza help to support the final stage of life, which is death.
Personification also helps to contribute to both the mood and the message. Throughout the poem, the bells are personified. In the first stanza, they are described as foretelling a world of merriment, which enhances the lighthearted mood of that stanza. In the second stanza, the mood is calmer, and they foretell happiness and harmony. Happiness, harmony, and rapture have a positive connotation, which enhance the mood. These words also hint at the overall meaning of the poem, as the second stanza is a metaphor for marriage. As the mood becomes darker, so does the message told by the bells. They tell a tale of terror, and the voices shriek, clang, clash, and roar. These words all have a negative connotation and help to shape the darker mood of the third stanza. There is also a mention of a fire, and the flames are described as leaping higher, higher, higher with a desperate desire. The personification of the flames as frantic and unsettled also contributes to the darker mood of the third stanza. The fourth stanza has a graver mood, and the voices of the bells are described as groaning. The tired-sounding noises made by the bells gives the fourth stanza a tired feeling, which is suggestive of the end of life.
In conclusion, the bells is a representation of the stages of life from the viewpoint of the speaker. The stages represented in the extended metaphor are childhood, marriage, tragedy, and death. Childhood is a joyful and carefree stage in life. The first stanza represents this when Poe uses phrases like world of merriment and a crystalline delight. Marriage is a time in life to settle down, be happy, and lose a childhood innocence. The second stanza represents this time of peace and joy, in contrasting phrases like hear the mellow wedding bells and ring out their delight. Next, tragedy is a stage when life doesn't go as expected. It can be terrifying, as reflected in the third stanza when Poe describes the bells as a tale of terror and what a horror they could outpour. And finally, death is the final stage of life and is very grave. This is reflected in phrases like the human heart is stone and the moaning and groaning of the bells. Overall, the change in Poe's use of romantic elements, Gothic elements, and other literary devices add to the contrast between the stages of life represented by each individual stanza.